This lecture essentially lays the fundamental groundwork for what economics is. Um, and the first thing we have to define before we can formally define economics is the concept of scarcity. Now, scarcity seems like a simple concept in itself. Most people would say that scarcity is simply there's not enough stuff. Well, that's true, but you can see that economists actually put a slight twist on this concept of scarcity. We define it as the inability to satisfy all of our wants. The reason why that's slightly different from the common interpretation of scarcity is right here, all of our wants. Think about it. If we didn't want anything, nothing would be scarce. In other words, the driving force behind things being scarce is the fact that our wants are almost unlimited. And therefore that makes things scarce. Moving from that, we can define economics. Economics is a social science that studies choices made by societies in the face of scarcity. And since pretty much everything is scarce, that means economics is the study of choices made by all societies. So you can see how broad economics is. Um, but more importantly, um, really economics is it tries to answer a fundamental question: how do we allocate scarce resources? In fact, not only how do we allocate scarce resources, but how do we allocate scarce resources most efficiently? Now, it's important to realize that we can allocate scarce resources all we want. And there's an infinite number of ways you can allocate resources. Okay, um, but to do it efficiently means that you're utilizing those resources in the most effective way possible. And that's really the key here. So economics is really the study of how we allocate scarce resources in the most efficient way possible. Uh, Now, we have to remember that economics is primarily a social science. Now, what that means is there's going to be a lot of psychology that plays into these decisions and these choices. Um, and we're talking about discipline. It's less like accounting, less like 2 plus 2 equals 4, and more like, well, how do we show that 2 plus 2 equals 4? How do we know 2 plus 2 equals 4? What's going on behind our decision making process that allows us to allocate these resources or find the most efficient way to allocate these resources? What's going on behind the scenes? That's really economics in a nutshell. It's a social science that tries to uh, uh, draw inference from decisions that people make in the allocation of their scarce resources. As an example, assume you make $10 an hour and assume your paycheck is $400 a week. What bills do you pay that week? You have a scarce resource, that's your income, that's $400 a week. What sort of sociological and business decisions do you make in the allocation of that scarce resources? What bills do you pay this week? Do you make the car payment? When you go to the grocery store, what groceries do you buy given your level of income? Those are choices that have everything to do with not only the uh, 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 cut and dry allocation. Car payments due, I need to make the car payment. but also the psychological and sociological aspects of, well, if I allocate my paycheck this week in a certain manner, how is it best going to benefit me? What manner can I allocate my paycheck that will best benefit me this week?